Hello, my name is Brittany Deigh. I am a psychic medium and spiritual teacher. My divine purpose is to assist in the expansion of the collective consciousness and to help you become more connected with the divine. This is a space to remember all that you truly are and ignite the possibilities of your highest potential. All right, my loves, get ready for a story here. Holy guaca-freaking-moly. Welcome back to another episode on the Addicted Household Recovery. Holy smokes, guys. This story is just like, I had no idea what I was in for when it came to this whole sobriety thing. I thought it was going to be really kind of simple. I thought I was just going to stop smoking weed and maybe just have to deal with myself wanting to sleep at night and, not really drink alcohol because I didn't really drink alcohol anyways. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was like, all right, I'm just going to break this generational curse. No big deal. No. Are you freaking kidding me? It is something serious. Like, this shit is no joke on an energetic level, okay? So something I should definitely preface with here is that one of my personal greatest addictions was a love addiction, an emotional addiction to fixed control managing my mom and my brother. That was like the biggest. I mean, of course it turned into substance abuse because you can't really fix control manage anybody. And so then I would feel like so out of control. And so then I would use. But their approval, their, them being okay is what made me okay, especially my mom, because my mom was always like dealing with my brother and his addiction. Not that she's a victim to him at all. No matter how much anybody tries to play the victim here, we all have our own power that we can access. We can all trust God to whatever extent we choose. But I really and truly, I thought that by being as perfect as I could be, and by being the golden child, and by being, check marking everything and doing everything the way that to her would make her look really good, it made her feel less bad about my brother using and my brother being, what seemed like on the outside, like a train wreck to society. I was the living proof that she wasn't a bad mom and that it had nothing to do with her being a bad mom and that it was this illness and this thing that he was suffering from. And so my mom and my brother both have been my greatest addiction, far above smoking weed, far above drinking, far above anything, any substances that I used was, and that turned into, boyfriends, friends, people in my life, my business. It would keep snowballing into other things, but definitely started with my mom and my brother and trying to be my mom's validation that she wasn't a bad mom and that, it wasn't her fault that my brother used. And so anyways, we have family therapy on Saturday, which I'm really grateful for and went really beautiful. As beautiful as it can, right? For being in an addicted household for fucking 15 years. And the following day, I really was going back and forth, with the idea of going to the Super Bowl party that my parents were putting on. I knew that my brother and his family would be there, so I would see my nephews. My partner's team was in the Super Bowl. He's a huge Phillies fan, Philadelphia Eagles. And we are too, because we're from Philly. Me, my mom, my brother, that's where we all lived together before my mom moved back to Kentucky, and then eventually my brother did as well, come to Kentucky. And so we're also Philadelphia Eagles fans. And like, that's something we all have in common and connect on. And so it was really, it was this whole first, and this is what's crazy about addiction is like, people don't explain to you how deep this shit goes. Like, it seems like this simple decision of just like, oh, I'm just going to choose myself. Oh, I'm just going to be like, it's fine. I'm just going to stay home, but this shit's deep. It's so deep. And you like, it's literally a mind jail. And so you're like in your mind, like, whoa, every decision feels so overwhelming. And it feels like so much because this literal illness is the mind prison. It's a mind illness. It's a mental illness. And well, really it's a spiritual illness, but it's the matrix. It's the validation outside of self. And that is through your awareness, which is connected to your mind, but ultimately your awareness is self in your spirit, right? But your mind also is where how your awareness is expressed and how your awareness is experienced, or one of the primary ways. Your awareness is also experienced through your body and through your emotions. And so anyways, I'm going through this whole thing. I'm going back and forth and going back and forth and going, should I go? Should I not go? Should I go? Should I not go? Can I handle it? Can I not handle it? And I'm like, okay, I think that I can do it. I think that if I just set my boundaries, I feel like if I just say in the moment, this is this is one of the things that I need to talk about in therapy. I'm going to write this down for therapy and then walk away and deal with it later, and not make it a scene in the moment, but make sure that it's known and that it needs to be addressed. I'm like, okay, maybe I can do that, And then me and my partner are sitting there eating breakfast. He just made breakfast for us. And he mentioned something about maybe getting a bottle of Buffalo Trace because my stepdad invited a bunch of the guys that they play poker with over for the game too. And that they were going to be playing poker and this and that. And he wasn't going to be, but, just hanging out with the guys. And I knew as soon as he said that, my fucking heart just sank. And I was like, it's one thing to deal with my mom and my brother and, his wife and my little brother and my nephews, and like to deal with all of those things and how I feel about all that currently, and to really try and stand in my light and stand in my truth and my authenticity, but also not let it ruin my time or anyone else's time, just being true, but from a stable place, from a place of safety, And then, you add on the layer of my partner being intoxicated. And I knew that, all the guys that they play poker with, they all smoke, whether it's cigarettes or smoke weed or whatever it is. And so I was like, okay, I'm glad that I knew. I'm glad that I heard that. And then you told me that they were all invited and that you were thinking about drinking. Like, I'm glad that I had that awareness before just being in it, and then feeling like I'm trapped. But now I'm really feeling like the reasons to not go are really starting to pile up. Like that, the family thing was like one thing, and I was like, maybe I can kind of set that aside a little bit, and then the being around the smoking and the drinking and all of that, when I'm literally only a month or so into my sobriety, that was like another challenge on top of the challenge. And I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. And so I went into the bathroom and I'm like almost like spinning out in the bathroom, like, right. Like my head is just like, I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? All of this guilt and shame. I felt like me choosing myself, me choosing my sobriety was just going to ruin it for everybody, because all I have known in my life is that when I choose myself and I don't just do what's quote unquote easier for everybody else, that usually turns into turmoil and chaos, and everyone's resentful and they're angry at me for not doing, what the box was that they had created and the expectations and the obligation that they had set forward. And then I walked out of the bathroom, and I'm really proud of myself because I walked out of the bathroom and I sat down, and I'm like trying to be present with him, trying to be present with my daughter, and we're playing and hanging out. And then I'm just like, I just want to let you know that I think that I think I've decided, I think I feel settled on not going. It's just too much. There's too many reasons why not to go. There's many more reasons why not to go. That's really what it was. Now that I'm realizing there's more reasons not to go than there was to go. And we had multiple discussions. I mean, just the fact that it took all this energy just to get to that decision says something in itself. Like, alignment is easy. Alignment is effortless. Alignment is flowy and fluidly. And I'm not saying that you don't have to work and do your own inner work to get to alignment, but an event or a plan or meeting with someone or whatever it may be is usually organic if it's meant to be. There's not all of this stomping up the river and pushing against a bunch of momentum and energy. Alignment is flowing down the river, and you just end up landing at the occasion, at the party. It just works out. And, I could genuinely tell that he was disappointed, because he knew that meant that my daughter wasn't going to be able to go because he needs to focus on watching the game. It meant a lot to him. This game was really important to him. And I was, in charge of her that day, and especially for the Super Bowl. And yeah, it meant that his girls weren't going to be there, and I could feel his disappointment. I knew that my mom was probably going to be disappointed. I knew that my brother was probably going to be disappointed. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's just the story of the past, right? And I felt such guilt for choosing myself. The level of guilt that I felt, guys, was deep, was so seriously deep. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to be present with him, and I'm trying to be present with my daughter, and my stomach is just turning. I literally feel sick. I feel ill. And then finally my partner turns to me and he's like, he can tell that I'm just really trying to be there, but it's just I'm not there right now. And he turns to me and he's like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, honestly, this is all just getting me really worked up. It's getting me really upset. I feel sick to my stomach right now. Do you mind just hanging with her a minute? I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to tap, EFT tapping. I'm going to release, cry, do whatever I need to do. I need to just move this because my stomach, I feel sick to my stomach. I feel so guilty for choosing myself." And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I go upstairs. I start tapping, right? I'm tapping. I'm releasing. I start crying, and it starts flooding, and I'm crying, and I'm crying, and I'm crying. And then the next thing I fucking know, I'm literally vomiting. And then I'm diarrheaing. I'm talking full stream out of my asshole. And then turning around and having to vomit in the fucking, and then turning around and full blown detox. Shaking, sweating, puking, diarrheaing, shaking, sweating, puking, diarrheaing, shaking, sweating, over and over and over again. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening right now? Finally, I got myself to a place of some level of stability. I crawl up into my bed and I'm just laying there, and I'm like crying, but like lightly crying, because I'm like, oh my God, like I'm literally going to diarrhea all over my bed right now. And then I'm laying there and I'm trying to bring myself back to center, right? Bring myself back into my power. And then I hear my partner just, step up the stairs, and he pops his head up and he's like, hey, are you okay? Because he had put our daughter down at this point and gotten in the shower. That's how long this had gone on for. And at this point, and then he pops his head up and he's like, hey, are you okay? I thought I heard something up here. And I was like, yeah, I'm vomiting and diarrheaing and just like, I'm really going through it right now. And he's like, what? And so then he comes over and he comes upstairs and he sits on the bed. And I was really honest and authentic and open. And I was like, I'm really feeling really guilty. I feel like I'm messing up your big game. I know how much this means to you. And then my mom put this whole party together, and like, she's so excited about these homemade cheesesteaks and the Kansas City barbecue, and they've spent all this money on all this food and and I'm not going to show up. And to be honest, I really didn't get a very supportive response. I got him saying that, he said to me, this is what sponsors are for. And that, I said, I'm feeling really like I need support. Like I really need understanding. And he was like, well, this is, your sobriety journey and your sobriety process. And he's already, he was using, we'll say this, way before we met, he was using and went to rehab and got sober. And so he knows the 12 steps, and he knows, sponsorship and all that kind of stuff, because he's walked through it himself at a point in his life. And so he said, this is your sobriety journey, and this is what having a sponsor is for. And I remember feeling so shut down in that moment. I'm like, she's not like called my sponsor, but it's my coach, and she's helping me on my sobriety journey. Like, and I just remember being like, wow, really? Like, I feel like I'm being passed off right now. Like, instead of just being like, I'm here with you, I'm present with you, like I got your back no matter what, it was like, oh man, like someone else needs to deal with this. That's how I genuinely felt. And I said to him, I'm like, I really feel like my sobriety journey is coming up against your addictions right now. Oh, because this is what it was. Listen to how fucking wild this is, guys. Listen to how wild. So as I'm laying there, this is before he came up, as I'm laying there and I'm just like, I'm trying to recover myself here. I really needed some faith and some hope, and I needed to feel less alone in this sobriety and the recovery journey. And so I looked up on YouTube, I looked up like sobriety hope or something like that. And the very first video that popped up was this TED Talk. And I clicked on it was the first video, it was the one I felt drawn to. It was this guy's doing this TED Talk, and he's talking about all this stuff with sobriety. It's really resonating, all da-da-da-da. And he's saying about how really sobriety is this seeking validation outside of yourself. And that really resonates with me. That's how I really feel about it as well. And he's going on and listing how people fill this void within themselves, right? And he's saying, alcohol and drugs and da-da-da and sex and gambling and da-da-da-da-da and love and emotions and da-da. And then he literally says, listen to how divinely supported and divinely guided this is. Literally says, even as far as if your team wins the Super Bowl, people find validation from that. And I'm just sitting there watching this YouTube video, and I'm just like, what in the actual fuck? And I'm like, damn, Spirit, heard, holy shit balls. And so then whenever he comes up and I'm really opening up to him, I'm really talking to him, I say to him, this is what was on the video. And I couldn't even believe how cosmic that was and synchronistic. That was not a coincidence at all. And I feel like I'm ruining your big game, but it's also what's the attachment to this? Why is this such a big game, And I do respect that, he loves football and it's something that's important to him, but it's also to what extent, we got to balance things in our lives. And if your partner's sick, on if it was for me, if it was some certification I had been working towards and I already paid $1,000 for the certification and I was really supposed to show up, whether it was online or in person that day, but my partner is fucking going through it and sick. It's man, I might just have to surrender right now. This may not be what's meant for me, because that's spirit. If spirit gets in the way, spirit gets in the way. I don't really have control over that, but I know it's hard. I know it's hard. It's really challenging, especially when we have these ideas of what something is supposed to look like. And so, I say all this openly, and the response from my, from my perception in that moment was really dull, and was, just saying to me, I feel this is what a sponsor is for. Maybe you should go to a meeting. And it's damn, dude, I'm fucking puking and shitting my brains out because I feel so guilty for messing up your game and messing up my mom's big party and plans, or feeling like I am. And the response is that I need to go somewhere else with my problems, and then I need to ask someone else for support. It's okay, whoa, alrighty then. And so obviously that didn't, or at least obviously to me, that didn't help where I was at. And I said flat out, I'm I feel like this is my sobriety journey coming up against your addictions. And he openly shared, that he has his own, internal battle with being controlled, and, females trying to control him and whatnot. And openly said, I don't think that anything that you're saying is trying to control me, but it is, it is kind of pushing a button right now because I don't want to be told what to do. And I'm I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just genuinely fucking going through it right now. So then it became one of those things of okay, we'll just see when the game gets closer, And it was okay. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm genuinely sick right now. So then I'm going through it, and it just keeps going. Honestly, guys, I feel so guilty and so shameful for choosing myself that I'm literally vomiting and diarrheaing and shaking, and the level of energetic release and attachment to being able to control how people view me and how people view my decisions, and how the resentment and the punishment that may come from me choosing myself. It was really challenging to do it. I felt so guilty. I felt so scared. It was so there was so much fear. And so then I crawled in the bathtub, and I'm still rotating the vomiting and the diarrheaing. But at this point I knew this is a spiritual cleansing that's happening right now. This is some deep detox shit. And I even had a moment before I went down in the tub where I thought of my brother, and I was if this is what detox feels like, I can't even fucking imagine if there was heroin or something that my body was literally addicted to involved. This is not to downplay what I was experiencing, but this is just emotional detox. I can't imagine my body also detoxing. No wonder detox can last 7 to 14 days, depending on the severity of your use, as far as detox centers and stuff. It's it's wild. But the level of empathy that I had for my brother was just so deep. I was like, oh my God, I cannot imagine trying to also detox from substances on top of all of the emotional and the energetics and all that shit. And so, anyways, I'm like rotating, you know, being in the bathroom and vomiting and shitting and yeah, just literally like I'm going through it so hard. Like, so it was just, it didn't stop. And I knew the whole time that it was my own mental prison, and that every time that I started to reclaim a little bit of my power, the better I felt. The less that I cared about how my actions are affecting anybody else, the more the symptoms would subside. But as soon as I would start caring more again about how my actions were affecting others, right, my head's back in the toilet, I'm shitting all over myself. Like, it was so immediate. And, you know, I remember feeling like such a victim to my partner, because I was like, why are you not helping me? Like, I'm going through it right now, and all you can care about is this game. And are you going to be able to go to the Super Bowl party? And are you, you know, where is Gaia's gear and her bow and her Eagles bib and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what about, do you need a fucking glass of water? Do you need some food? You know, like, I'm over here going through it and really, you know, feeling neglected. And just like, even when I tried to take care of myself, I got up out of the tub and tried to go to the kitchen to refill my water bottle. And I didn't even make it to the kitchen, and I made it through the dining room, and then I just had to run back into the bathroom and vomit again. And I remember turning to my partner and being like, are you fucking, you know, he's sitting in the living room, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, you can't help me at all. And he's like, you have to ask for help. And I'm like, I am right now. Like, I don't personally feel like if someone is like basically fucking and dying in front of your face that you have to ask for help. But if that's really what I need to do, like, here I am asking for help. Like, I can't even fill up my water bottle by myself right now. And I feel like ultimately I could have, if I would have broken my mental jail of being the victim to him, being the victim to the situation, being a victim to God's plan, right? Being a victim to it all. But I couldn't get past it. And I was trying not to shame myself, right? Digging deeper into the hole for not being able to get past it in that moment. But it was a journey. It was a deep, deep journey. And so finally, and I was literally, especially once the game was on, I was literally repulsed by that energy. I could not handle the energy of the Super Bowl game. Like, whatever consciousness that was, whatever energetics that was, it was hurting my head. Like, if I heard it, you know, nearby or whatever, like, cause he had it on his phone walking around. Like, if I heard, I had to like hold my ears. And once again, that's the victim in me, right? Like, nothing has that power over you. Nothing outside of you has that power over you. I was handing my power away to these people, to this game, to all the da-da-da-da-da-da. And so finally, I was like, I finally reclaimed my power, and I was like, fuck this. Like, we're going within, we're taking care of ourselves. I don't give a fuck. Like, honestly, I had to get to this place of like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck that. Like, honestly, that's how I genuinely felt inside. And had to just take care of myself and make that the only focus. Like, whatever, I don't even need fucking water. I don't need food. I don't need any of it. Like, I need to go within, and I need to take care of myself. And I know that's what my intuition is saying, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I put my headphones on, and I put on some motherfucking Trevor Hall, because that man literally heals my soul. He brings me back home to who I truly am through his music. And I jammed out in the tub. And I was like, I'm just in full taking care of myself. I'm not focused on anybody else anymore. I'm done with that paradigm. I release it from my being, like in whatever way it needs to be released, whether it's vomiting, diarrhea, whatever. I surrender to your plan, spirit. I know this is bigger than me. I know this is greater than me. I know that I'm not a victim. I know that I can connect with my power. I know that I can connect with you. And I'm jamming and I'm starting to feel the light come through my chest again. And I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. And I'm feeling really, really fucking good. And then, I mean, it probably, when my heart was expanded and I felt this pulsation and this vibration in my chest of light, the symptoms of feeling sick and vomiting and diarrheaing really, truly started to subside. Like, I was like, wow, I finally made it to the other side. Now, granted, guys, this was probably 7.5 to 8 hours later. It was a journey. And so I go upstairs. Listen to how wild this is. Fucking energetics, right? I go upstairs and I start to send my coach a voice note about this whole experience. I'm like, yo, dude, talk about clearing codependency, clearing addictions. Like, I cleared some shit out today. Like, I went through a purging freaking initiation. And I'm probably like somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes into my recording my voice note to her, and I'm talking and I'm talking. And then the next thing you know, as I'm talking, I get this text at the top of my screen from my partner that says, now I'm vomiting and diarrheaing, literally pissing out of my ass, and taking care of Gaia. Can you help at all? And my jaw literally just drops. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? This is insane. This is insane that this is even happening right now. So I feel not better. I'm not 100% by any means. I wasn't even 100% until the second day. Like, even the following day, I was still recovering. My body was still aching. I was still coming down from the detox. But I knew that I could take care of my daughter. So I went down and I took her so that way he could take care of himself. And then my partner spent, 12, 13 hours the whole night long, vomiting and diarrheaing and going through it all the same. And we both were rising, but fucking drinking our medicina. And, the next day we tried to have a conversation and it didn't go so well. And then we took some space, and then the following conversation, I really felt like I was seen and met with the empathy that I had been seeking, that support that I had been seeking from the get-go, And then I was still not able, it was very challenging for me to put myself, to empathize, right? Empathy is putting yourself in the other person's shoes. It was very challenging for me to put myself in the shoes of not being able to help someone who's ill, or feeling like something else is more important or could possibly be more important than helping someone that's ill in front of me. And I recognize now that this is just addiction. This is just how addictions work. But it took a minute for me to really open and to empathize for the way that I had treated him, because I was belittling him, right? For making this game so important. I'm like, really? This fucking game? I don't give a fuck what's important to you right now. Like, I'm fucking dying in here. And, I don't feel supported. I don't feel loved. And so then finally I got to a place where I asked him, I'm like, I really am desiring to feel supported, to feel seen, to feel loved, to feel like you have my back no matter what. Do you think that that's something that you can offer me right now? And then he did. He came upstairs and we had this really beautiful moment of understanding that this was just both of our shadows coming up to head in the same, right in the same moment. And that this is where both of our walls were still up. This is where both of us were still in our addiction. Me seeking something outside of myself, this grabbing energy and this pushing away energy, and them interacting with one another. And, we talked, and he really helped me feel seen. I really helped him feel seen. And we came to a place of understanding that the reality is that I don't think that either of us, and probably not many of us, if you were raised in an addicted household, not many of us know what the true experience of unconditional love is, what real true love is, what it really means to feel supported, to feel nourished. We don't know what a nourishing environment is. We grew up in chaos. We grew up in neglect. We grew up in darkness. And so we are together in our union and in our relationships with our friends and in our relationships with our communities and our business and all the things. We are learning day by day, moment by moment, what it really means to exist and to show up in unconditional love. And the reality is that we're going to make mistakes. We're going to act out of old ways, and we're going to be the addicted old version of ourselves. And that's the only way to let the old story go. That's the only way to detox and release the old belief, is to experience it and see how much this is not in alignment with who I really am now. And to see how much we're acting out the way that we were treated. I don't know my partner's family, and I don't know all of his history, but just by the way that the actions were, it's he was probably neglected when he was sick. He was probably told, you can take care of yourself unless you fucking need to go to the hospital, for the most part. I don't know, but I wasn't there, but those actions reflect that. Just for me, I need you in order to help me fix myself. In order for me to be better, I need this to be better, and I need you to be okay, and I need my mom to be okay with me not showing, and all these things. And so it's a journey of learning what it really means to show up in true unconditional love, and to recover the places of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that still feel broken and still act out of that sense of feeling broken, and not shaming, right? Not shaming yourself or shaming your partner or shaming your friend, and having empathy and compassion and meeting them in a place of understanding that this is both of our shadows. This is both of our responsibilities. This is both of us coming to the table with these things and releasing the victim. The victim can be present. It can be accepted. It can be honored, but it's not who runs the show. When the victim runs the show and says it's everyone else's problem, it's everyone else's fault why I feel this way, you're in disempowerment. You're in codependency. You're in your addiction. You're in these things are more powerful than me. And I promise you they're not. So just know, I realized through this experience that this clearing codependency and healing the generational trauma of addiction is far, far more than just not smoking weed, than just not drinking. It's literally collapsing ancestral energetics that are existing and trapped in your body And so this may not be the last time that I freaking detox on an intense level. I don't know. I don't know how many cycles of this I will need to go through, but all I know is that I know that I came to be a cycle breaker. And if you're listening to this, you probably came to be a cycle breaker. And I will put in every ounce of my damnedest effort to break the cycle so that way my children are not dealing with this, are not facing this energy and this spiritual illness, and that their minds are free to blossom and to be uncaged and to be experiencing the reality that they truly desire and that is truly aligned with their soul essence. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for being present with my process. Know that you're not alone, and that through compassion and empathy and honoring what this journey truly is, you can make it to the other side. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed that episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and if this was impactful for you at all, please share it with others. This is how we can help each other. Much love and namaste.